Please. Dr. Baker.
Here.
Ms. Shazal. Here. Ms. Gonzalez is excused. Mr. Hightower.
Here.
Dr. Houston is excused. Ms. LaRiere.
Here.
Ms. Moise.
Here.
Ms. Patrick.
Here.
Sister Carol.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. At this time, I invite our guests to introduce themselves. We start.
Great. Good morning, everybody. Max Day with the Office of School Choice Department Head.
Good morning, Ernie Singleton, Office of Career and College Readiness, Department.
Marilyn Johnson. Career and College Readiness.
Stephanie Markham, Career and College Readiness, Department.
Chauncey McGill, Federal Programs.
Kenya Jenkins, Federal Programs, LDOE.
Tommy Rock, Superintendent of Capital School, Diocese of Alexandria, Member President.
Sister Anna Brooks, Diocese of Shreveport, Associate Superintendent.
Daphne Flint, Board State Ombudsman. Nikki Landry, Executive Director of Education Policy.
Ethan Malonzo, Executive Director of Governmental Affairs.
Gia Johnson, Department of Education.
Christina Wilson, Department of Education.
Welcome, Dr. Broom.
Oh, okay.
Christine Bird.
Thank you, welcome. This time, you should have received your minutes from our last meeting, so I will entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Carol, second, Lisa Patrick. Okay, our first item, we have quite a lengthy agenda today, but I'd like to kind of move a little quickly because some of us have to move on to other things after this is over. So we will begin with 3.1, consideration of an updated report regarding the Emergency Assistance for Non-Public Schools Program, the EANS. Who's speaking to that? I need a motion to receive the report. Mr. Hightower. Second, Sister Carol.
All right, good morning. Kenya Jenkins from the Federal Programs Office. We just wanted to give you an update on cursor EANS and on art EANS to kind of, I wouldn't say close out, but we've kind of come to a place where we think things are a little settled now. So for cursor EANS, which was of course the first round of EANS funds that was received, 180 schools participated in the program in 2021. It consisted of reimbursements and future procurements. LDOE completed all approved reimbursement payments, so that was done quite some time ago. LDOE, our procurement team, OTS, have completed the procurements of the approved future procurement requests. So all of the procurement requests that were sent in, that they have been working on for months and months, supply chain delivery issues and so on and so forth, have been completed by the LDOE procurement team and OTS. LDOE and OTS fulfilled all eligible future procurement requests to the best of their ability, of course, based on what was available, what was approved, and working with the LDOE contracted vendors. Notices of program closeout will be issued to all participants in order to close out the program this fall. So we are currently working on making sure all of those reports are approved and received, and they will begin to go out to programs. Any information needed in regards to cursor EANS, this is the email address that you would send any questions to. Now, art EANS, which was the second round of EANS funding that we received that did not include reimbursement. So that was one of the major differences. It came out of the American Rescue Plan, Emergency Assistance for Non-Public Schools. It was the same, it was $55 million as was cursor EANS, and it consisted of future procurement requests only. All schools that were eligible to participate had to meet the following requirements. They had to be an elementary or secondary school as defined by that section of ESCA. It had to be a nonprofit. It had to be accredited licensed or otherwise operated in accordance with state laws, was in existence prior to March 13, 2020, which was the date of the emergency that was declared, did not, will not, has not applied to receive a loan under the Small Business Administration's Paycheck Protection, or the PPP program, as many of you know it by, that was made on or after December 27th, and had to have enrolled a significant percentage of students from low-income families for the 1920 school year at a minimum of 22%, and was most impacted by COVID-19, which all of our schools were. So again, there was a little difference between those that were eligible under cursor EANS and those that were eligible under ARP EANS. There was 71 applications received for ARP EANS. 60 schools met that criteria of eligibility. Applications consisted of approximately 5,000 requests for software and non-software items. 60 notices of allowable costs have been issued. All notices have been issued. There were 20 appeals received around the allowability of certain costs that we've gone through. It was elevated to the program, and post-appeal notices of allowable costs were issued. So all of it has been done. LDOE procurement team and OTS are actively working to procure the approved future procurement requested items for all of the schools, or all of the 60 schools that were eligible. If you have any questions about the application, the portal, the progress of procurement, you can email the arcinfo@LDOE-EANS address for any questions. And again, as we speak, the procurement team and OTS are working to procure as much as they can, as quick as they can, to fulfill all of the requests that we had for those 60 eligible schools. So that's kind of a status update from cursor EANS. We're actually on the closeout side of things there, and they are working to procure as much as they can, as quick as they can, on the ARP EANS side. Any questions? And y'all know how to get in touch with me if you have any questions. Thank you.
Gonna turn your phone off? Just teasing. Any further discussion?
Mr. Carroll know how to get in.
Yeah, Sister Carol ought to work for the FBI. Any opposition? Okay, moving to the next item on our agenda, Louisiana Scholarship Program update. I need a motion to receive the report. Mr. Hightower, second, Michelle. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. So, I'm going to start with the Louisiana Scholarship Program update. We'll talk a little bit about enrollment and where we're at, as we just wrapped up quarter one reporting, and then what we're looking forward to for this year. Update on enrollment. So, we just closed out quarter one reporting, so we now have some more final numbers. You've seen most of these as far as it relates to the applications, but I just wanted to regroup on it. We are seeing a decrease in the number of applications we're receiving, therefore a decrease in the number of eligible applicants. We had awarded all eligible students who had an available seat, which is a vast improvement. So any student that applied that was eligible, that put a choice for a school and a grade level that had availability, was offered an award. We are now starting to see what that acceptance rate looks like, closer to about an 83% accepted rate of all of the awards that we submitted. Sister Karen.
Just a question, have the acceptance changed? Is it
Schools to make sure we have accurate roles has improved. So I'm not sure if comparing last year and the year prior to this year, given that we've been putting a lot more emphasis on accurate reporting to clean up the rules, where that had kind of trickled in a bit last year. Like we wanted to make sure the rules were as accurate as possible before reporting this year. So that might be playing into it. But for sure we want to reach out to the parents and get a better understanding from their perspective.
Mr. Carroll, one of the things that I've noticed is over time, the number of
And to that end too, that reaching out to families will also help us understand what better outreach can we do in the future. We definitely want to make sure we, when it comes time to the application in the winter, do more advertising, make sure it gets out there. We're going to improve, and I'll talk about this a bit too, the application itself, making sure it's translated into another language, making sure it's a little bit more accessible and easier to use, so that we can kind of help beef up those numbers a little bit for next year too. So for this past lottery, some of our improvements were to invest in accurate data early. Like I said, we're just emphasizing accuracy across the board, making sure that we knew exactly how many awards we could give, using historical data to predict best we can. And then, as we could, making sure that as many students were marked as eligible as possible. So we partnered with the Louisiana Federation for Children. They helped us a lot with the individual outreach to families. We did parent webinars that were a huge success this past year and will continue to do. Make sure that we're reaching out directly to families as well. And then making sure that the parents and the schools themselves who are giving advice to the parents on the process understand exactly what's needed, making sure that they can be determined to be eligible. Also increased quite a bit of our school support. We created office hours for school support and questions, monthly webinars that we do and have been doing for quite some time. We've gotten quite a bit of increased participation in. We've created this Strategies for Success bi-weekly webinar for new and returning schools that need extra support, improving our guidance, and then making sure that we're responding in a timely manner. So for the school choice program for students with exceptionalities, we received 616 applications. We were able to make 466 awards based on our budget, 23 of which were declined. We currently have 80 students on the wait list with 443 students currently enrolled. So now that quarter one is completed, this week we're going to be looking at what are our budgets, what does the budget allow for awarding off the wait list. Obviously it is our goal to make sure we maximize the budget in the form of as many awards as possible. Okay, so looking forward to this year, increasing our transparency and support for our schools. So our reporting calendar is now put together and on our website. We rolled this out last year. I think we've improved on it even more this year, making sure all of the expectations for schools are laid out in a clear manner. The office hours I mentioned have now been expanded. I believe it was 2-hour blocks twice a week. And every slot was filled. So we've expanded that, continuing to offer that support for one-on-one direct support for schools. Making sure that we have the most updated and accurate list of who to reach out to at every school. Again, building off of our Strategies for Success bi-weekly check-ins. So all of our new schools are asked to join, and then if there's a new administrator at an existing school or just somebody who wants a refresher, open time to ask more questions. The team is going to put together a whole year-long curriculum on everything that you need to know. We're making sure that schools have the access they need to the systems. We'll talk more about that later. Webinar trainings for the application processes. In addition to the parent webinars, we're doing school-facing webinars. Making sure we do an annual survey. It's going to be actually a biannual survey for our schools. How can we better improve? How can we better support the schools? And then, as per legislation that passed last year, we will begin site visits to our participating schools as well. So some areas that we monitor, mobility rate, testing rates and testing errors, timely reporting, particularly for the quarterly reporting, making sure schools report on time, that they get paid on time. Looking into any past audit findings, transfer and expulsion rates, and then again, school visits, and then looking at family input and family satisfaction. Okay, so this is information about our Strategies for Success. Next one is September 23rd. This information is obviously on our website too. Schools are more than welcome to come. We would like it if they come consistently, but if they have one time available, come one time. And looks like the next agenda will be notice of intent for 23-24 and payment adjustment forms. So looking forward to the application that'll be opening this fall for next following year. We are now going to have one application for all families. In the past, we had that partnership with Nonpublic schools. We are very grateful for all of their support. We're streamlining this though, moving forward, that it is one application. So Orleans Parish and statewide is all in one application. We hope that that'll improve communication with families, kind of ease of access along those lines. So there'll be one timeline, one open date, one closed date, and because we don't have to partner with one app, we are setting those dates ourselves. We have kind of full control over that now. We'll produce updated family guides. That's going to have kind of step-by-step in the application process. And again, detailed school participation guide as well. Making sure all the forms are easier to access on the website. They're not buried in the non-public library, right? Schools can access everything. Parents have a clear way to access everything. And we'll make sure we put out any additional resources for families. Here are some highlights of upcoming dates for the Louisiana Scholarship Program. Is that later this week? No, that's next week. Notice of intent opens for the schools. It'll stay open for a full month. And then payment adjustment forms due on October 7th for quarter 1. Quarter 2 starts December 1st. And then these are the dates for the application webinars that I've mentioned. And application will open on December 12th. Payment adjustment forms January 3rd, and then the application will close January 20th. That's the next 3-4 months that we've got. For the school choice program, notice of intent on the same timeline. Payment adjustment forms October 7th. Quarter 2 enrollment reporting is on a slightly different timeline. That'll start in November. Nearly everything is the same. January is when we'll do the application webinar for the parents and schools, and then February 1st, the application opens, March 6th, the application closes. Questions about that?
This may show that I'm new to the group and may not understand the scholarship program completely, but what are the criteria for a student or a family to be qualified for the scholarship? Is it strictly finance?
So there is, you have to be under 250% of the poverty guidelines, similar to a lot of the other scholarship programs we have. And the student needs to have been in a C, D, or F school in the year prior. So that's part of the process that we do as far as eligibility checks, is to make sure that we check to our databases to see, was the student reported 10-1 and 2-1 in a public school prior.
2 other questions. How long has the program been in effect?
Ooh, that's a good question. 2012?
2011, 2012.
Thank you.
And is there data that tracks performance of the students compared to the population of the school that's not part of the scholarship program?
So students do have to test in the scholarship program, and they test on the statewide assessment that all other public school students do. The public schools that participate, or sorry, the private schools that participate in the program are not obligated to test the rest of their students. So we don't necessarily have like comparison data. We can compare their performance over the course of that student's career, not necessarily in comparison to the non-eligible students in the school. It'd be nice to look at that.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Any opposition? Thank you very much. We're moving on now to Student of the Year program and recent revisions. Do I have a motion to receive the report? Dr. Baker, Sister Carol, second.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Ernie Singleton, and I'm with the Office of Career and College Readiness. And we actually submitted some revised slides, so I'm not going to go through this entire deck because there's a whole lot more information than we need to share this morning. A lot of this information was shared last week when Mayor Susie presented the Student of the Year information in a webinar. So I'm going to move forward to that. Here we go. This is where we're going to start. So we appreciate you all's interest in this particular program. Student of the Year program is a wonderful opportunity to highlight and celebrate the accomplishments of our students in grade 5, 8, and 12 across the state. Over the last year, we took a look at the Student of the Year program and realized that we need to make some changes and some revisions to the program to make it more equitable for all of our students across the state so that our students were competing against themselves within their particular area of the state. So the changes that were made were we increased the amount of regions from 7 to 8. Previously, we had 7 regions. There were 5 regions for public schools, there was 1 region for our non-public schools, and there was 1 region for our charter schools. Well, now we have 8 regions that are based on the BESI districts across the state. So they are distributed based on population maps of BESI. We also added an additional level of competition, and that is at the zone level. And the zone level is based on the BESI region. School system nominees may submit completed and submitted zone committees to their zone before winter break. We recognize that is a little bit different, but the scoring rubric has also changed. So the academic portion has gone down a little bit, so that the portfolio portion has gone up. So academic stuff can be submitted before winter break, whereas in the past, it was submitted after winter break. And then the weighting of the scoring rubrics has changed to emphasize school and community, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that as we go through the presentation. So again, these are the BESI districts. This is a map that you can find anywhere on Google or on the BESI website, so it kind of shows you where the regions are. Now, one thing to recognize is that some of our BESI districts or regions overlap within a school system. Okay, so especially if you look down here, and I don't know if this little pointer thing works. If you look at Orleans, Orleans has BESI members that go across, they cross lines. So the school site address determines which BESI region they will go in. So that is the key for those particular systems that may go across, that cross lines. Because if you look at Orleans, we have them going in the pink area, which is the 2nd district, and also the blue area, which is the 1st district. So it just depends on the address of the school site as to which zone they will go in. Yes?
Okay. Help me understand something here. Okay, for example, I'm in the Diocese of Shreveport.
Okay.
Okay, which is Region 4. Okay? I also have schools of Monroe, which are Region 5. So my question is, and we're supposed to have 2 for 5th grade, 2 for 6th grade, 2 or 8th grade, and 12th grade. So do I send students' names to 2 different zones?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me ask this other question. My friend Tommy Rock, Mr. Diocese of Alexandria over there, he covers 5 of these districts and competing with me in one of my districts. Do they have to have students to go to all those zones, names?
We're going to get to the next slide that is going to be a little bit. Okay. This is
Sorry, Tom, didn't mean to interrupt.
and this information is the slide that is not correct. So we don't get this slide out of it. I know. But this is the slide that we will help. And some information on this slide is not correct. It is on mine right here. So let's start over here in this non-public column. All right? So we're going to use the Alexandria Diocese as an example. In the past, the Diocese of Alexandria school system consisted of all of the schools in the Alexandria Diocese and all of the non-public schools that are not Catholic. Isn't that correct? So, for example, you had those 7 non-public schools in Alexandria Country Day. Those 8 schools, just take that as an example, those 8 schools all competed against one another. So grade 5, you had 6 students from those Catholic schools and then 1 student from Alexandria Country Day. They all competed together. In this process, they don't compete against one another. Alexandria Country Day is their own school system. All the students in grade 5 from the Alexandria Diocese all compete against one another. So we're going to have a winner from the Alexandria Diocese at grade 5. We're gonna have a winner from Alexandria Country Day at grade 5. That is the school site winner. So those 5 students, yes,
What about on Bethel?
that's their own, they're their own school system. Okay, so those 5 students, I couldn't remember the other school that you told me, so I just remember Country Day. Those 5 students in grade 5 from the Catholic school, the Alexandria Diocese, now compete at that school system level. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, we're gonna select student number 3. So student number 3 from the Alexandria Diocese is now the winner for the Alexandria Diocese. Alexandria Country Day, they have a winner. So the Alexandria Country Day, the student from the Alexandria Diocese, they will now compete against one another at the zone level. So they will compete at the zone level. So now we have actually more students competing at that zone level than we did in the past. Because previously, the 5 schools in the Diocese of Alexandria, Alexandria Country Day, and the Bethel School, I can never remember the name of, they all competed together. But now it's separate. So now at that zone level, 2 students will come out to go to the regional level. 2 non-public students, this slide is incorrect. 2 non-public students will come and go to that regional level. Now at the regional level, based on the 8 Bessie districts, we're gonna have 8 students come out of that level. So students in grade 5 are all competing against all of the students in grade 5 from that Bessie district. So when I go back to this map here, and I go to Alexandria is in Rapides Parish, so that is this pink area, Claiborne, Morehouse, East Carroll, all the way down to Evangeline. All of those students are competing against one another, whether they're public, non-public, or charter. So one student from grade 5, there are going to be 8 individual grade 5 students from each Bessie district that will be coming out. So we have students competing against students, so we no longer have an automatic person coming from a non-public and an automatic person coming from a charter. And then we have those 5 coming from the publics. So it could be several more, it could be more non-publics, it could be several charters coming at that state level.
Just a little more confusion to me.
Okay.
Where, for example, where it says Diocese of Shreveport, in Shreveport, I have 3 schools,
Okay.
okay? In Monroe, I have 3 schools. Those 3 schools in Shreveport, for example, no longer classified as, they're not going to compete as Diocese of Shreveport. Well, I have in St. John will compete against St. Joseph and Loyola, right?
Are they all in the diocese? Are they?
They're diocesan schools, but they all live in Shreveport.
Yes, so those 3 will compete against one another, yes.
Okay, and they're going to be competing against all these publics, Bienville, Bossier, Canoga, so all that kind of thing, right?
When they get to the zone level.
Okay, so, okay, that makes sense. So Lisa, you're competing with Fatima and all that, okay? Okay. Wow, okay. Okay, got it.
Can I ask what prompted this change?
We saw that there was not equality across, and the charters have been doing this. So we just made it the same across the state, because this is the process that the charter schools have been using for a number of years. How many years? 4 years. So we just made it equal across the state, because we wanted students to compete against students.
Okay, one more question. Okay, all those little non-public schools that used to send all their portfolios to me for all this, they'll find out that their name's not listed, for example, District 4, they'll get something to tell St. Mark's Episcopal School, for example, this is how you do this.
Yes, in the student year guidelines, it lists details out exactly which zone they're in.
Okay,
Isn't that correct, Susan? Yes.
they'll know which zone, but they're not listed, so they'll have that there, right?
Yes. Yes. Additional questions?
No?
And we will definitely give you all the correct slides but I'm sorry that it was not correct. So then, once it leaves the non-public, it goes to the regional, and we will have that one student from each region that will come to the state. And the overall winner will be selected at the state level. So that is the major change. So I'm not going to go through the timeline. The additional changes that we do have are revisions to the scoring rubric. We had a shift in the weighting of the portfolio components. Portfolio is 50, interview 25, writing sample 25 points. The academic, the GPA eligibility, we wanted it based on all elementary grade levels or Carnegie units, so that was changed. 12th grade scoring components were adjusted to, again, for college and career-bound coursework as well as credentialing. We, of course, want all students represented, and we do have a lot of CTE students, so we want to make sure that the work that they're doing is represented in addition to our college-bound students. Awards for leadership, service activities, community honors, recognitions have a greater weight than academic component. We want a student that is very well-rounded, you know, so we want to make sure that we're including that. We've also included career-based organizations as competitions, as examples that can be considered in the scoring process. And then we would like the selection panel for our grade 12 winners to include a CTE instructor, Louisiana Community and Technical College System or university personnel. We would like for them to be included. We understand that may be difficult, but we have indicated that that would be a good thing to include because we want all of our students represented in this process. So this is an example of the zone selection committee. We encourage you to look at these types of individuals. We're not saying you have to have them, but we have provided this as guidance. So if you have additional questions, please reach out to Susie. She has been doing our Student of the Year program for a number of years. If you have more detailed questions that you would like answered, she can definitely provide that to you. Any additional questions?
Any further discussion?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any discussion? Thank you very much. Okay, we're moving on to report regarding certification. I need a motion to receive the report. Lisa, second Dr. Baker. Morning, Christie.
Good morning.
Morning.
It's good to see y'all this morning. We have quite a few updates to provide to y'all. Some of the updates at the end of the deck are actually what prompted some of the updates that we're going to provide at the beginning. So the updates at the beginning are the ones that are actually most pertinent to this group, so we'll just get started with that. There are a number of new applications. So we had a lot of legislative and policy changes over the last few weeks and months, and that prompted us to revise probably about 18 or 20 of our certification applications. And in doing so, we're attempting to make the application process and the applications themselves a little bit simpler. So we also decided to revise the non-public hire application. We had those revised and ready and posted on our site September 15th. We normally provide a grace period where there's at least a 1 month period. Because it was the middle of the month, it's going to be about 6 weeks overlap where you can use the current application or the newly posted application. The newly posted application will be required by November 1st. And just wanted to flag that since the policy updates that we'll talk about towards the end of the deck were adopted as emergency rule, if there was something that's applicable to an application that you have in queue, you can use your history option, and that's linked there on how you can do that to add any supporting documentation. Not a whole lot of policy was changed for non-publics. The most that would be applicable to you would probably be if you have someone on an OS or something like that. We'll get to those policy changes. But your application, the non-public hire, was revised in a similar manner to the regular renewal hire application. And we included some options to simplify what you check off. It will allow you to request a higher level certificate subject to the documentation that's submitted. I don't know if you remember, before we had multiple checkboxes underneath this, we just made one checkbox so that it would be a little bit simpler for requests, and we're trying to reduce the number of declinations that you see according to something was just checked incorrectly. So it will allow you to choose, higher level. That means that we're going to review whatever documentation that you provide, and if the documentation that you have provided and everything that is on file, we can issue them a higher level, we'll do that, whether it's the higher level 2 or the higher level 3, according to whatever is submitted. So we're hoping that that will simplify the process a little bit more. Just keep in mind that higher means that we're going to issue a new certificate, where renewal means we're going to extend the validity on the current or existing certificate. And it's on the certificate that's already been issued if they qualify. You can actually select the higher and renewal option for the same fee, and we'll take a look at the documentation that has been submitted, and our specialists will make the determination, what the educator qualifies for, and issue the certificate appropriate to that. So we're hoping that this will simplify the process a little bit, reduce, like I said, the number of denials because something wasn't filled out correctly. We hope it's going to also ensure that the educator gets their biggest bang for their buck, the highest certificate that they qualify for. So we just want to flag that if you are thinking that an educator, in an example of the higher, like the level 3 asterisk certificate that does require that graduate degree, make sure if you think there's a possibility that they qualify for that, include that official transcript so that we can go ahead and issue them that certificate. The reinstate and reactivate, of course, is only for those lifetime asterisk certificates if they've been out of service for more than 5 years. So you would not use that option for somebody that is on a standard level asterisk certificate. Did you have a question?
I do. That return to practicing.
The status change at the bottom?
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have to submit, you don't have to submit all the pages of that application with it? Because there's some that didn't look like it applied to people.
Yeah, we're going to get to the status change in just a second, yes ma'am. So the status change request, we hope to simplify that as well. There was a lot of confusion about whether it's operational or not practicing. With that status change request, you do have to include that experience verification form, identifying the years, their position, that type of thing. We'll take a look at that experience verification form, and you will have to include the effective date, and then we'll determine what is the appropriate role. You'll need to include, of course, their job title or whatever their position is. That will help us to determine how it meets policy. And we also included a checkbox there that if you wanted to renew something and then immediately freeze it, you have the option to do that with the checkbox to do that issuance. But some of the other forms outside of the experience verification form would not be required for that status change request. If you're talking about the local evaluation and attestation, that would not be required for the status change.
This is someone that was teaching, has a certificate that goes way past this year, but she froze it, now she's going back. So I checked that box.
Return to practicing. Yes, ma'am.
But I saw the other documents, I'm like, I don't know if that really applies.
Right, if you're returning to practicing, you wouldn't need anything but that experience verification. Those local evaluation and attestation forms are only used when you need to renew or advance a certificate. And on that note, those local evaluation and attestation forms, please be sure to include all of the information in the boxes. We're seeing that there seems to be a lot of confusion about the scale. You need to include like the rating scale first, like good, bad, ugly, A, B, C, D, F, whatever, and then what they actually scored in the next box. So another new application that it doesn't often apply for non-publics, but sometimes some of your educators come to you from out of state. You may need to use the OS application. So the OS application itself didn't change a whole lot. Just the requirement for the Praxis 1 was the major change or shift in policy. But with that application too, we also try to simplify some of the checkboxes and items, and under the same premise as the one before, include all of the documentation, and we'll make the determination as to be able to issue the highest level certificate according to the documentation that's provided. The biggest change for OS applications and the policy for OS or out of state would be that previous law required they have 1 year of in-state experience. That is no longer required. So if they have 3 years of out-of-state experience prior to applying for that OS application, if that's filled out by their former employer out of state and it's been successful, they can advance to a higher level Louisiana teaching certificate without having to pass our exams. If they don't have those 3 years, then they'll still have to serve on that OS and pass the exams. So again, we're trying to simplify the process on the applications, and we're going to issue according to whatever documentation is submitted. The TA application, again, it was not something that policy really changed for, but since we were revamping like 18 of our applications, why not add just a few more to make them all, a little bit simpler. So the TA application, of course, that was due to Act 634 of 2018. We've been dealing with these for quite some time. Since then, there's been an FBI audit. So we updated that application to kind of align with the findings of that audit. Nothing has changed in that you still cannot share the actual criminal history or the criminal background check with us. However, we've included some risk categories to help you identify kind of just like a key, critical, high, moderate, or low. And you're going to indicate, this information is on the application itself, so you'll have the key as a part of the application every time in the instruction page. But when you get to, you're basically checking either they have records or they don't have records. If they have records, you're going to send us the court documentation and tell us the number of the critical, high, moderate, or low items that you see on that CBC. Again, you're not sending the CBC to us, you're just sending some information from it. So you'll see we have some basic information that has stayed the same. Grade level, date of hire, their employment role, that's whether they're a teacher, administrator, long-term sub, or a day-to-day sub. And then you're going to indicate the date that you received the report, who reviewed it. We do recommend consulting with your legal counsel, by the way, on that. And then either it's clear or it's not clear, and you're going to indicate the number of risks that you've seen on that CBC, and that's it. Anything, if you have numbers entered in those boxes, you'll need to send us court documentation according with that application. Any questions about that one?
No, but I'm gonna listen to my secretary. Oh, then.
It's gonna be one of those houses.
It's gonna be a high risk. She's on the committee, so we'll see.
So I just wanted to flag for you, we are aware that our processing time is increasing our volume of what we're receiving, so our processing time is slowing down a little bit. Wanted to flag that for you. We are working on short-term and long-term solutions. That will take a little while, but we do appreciate your patience during that time. Of course, at any time, you can always schedule office hours with us if you have a specific thing that needs to be expedited or a complex case or something like that. So we are working on it, and we just do appreciate your patience while we're getting through all those solutions. We're training some new folks also, so if you do notice like some errors that or something that you might think is an error, you can submit that as a question or email that to me. With training, we expect that errors will be made, and so we want to get those corrected as soon as possible. A reminder about Teacher Certification Appeals Council. The last meeting is November the 10th with a deadline for October 13th to have any appeals into our office. Please keep in mind that the applicant has to first be denied certification before they can appeal. They need that declination letter as a part of the appeals packet. They need to appeal within 90 days of their declination under current policy. We do have policy out of notice of intent that had changed that to 120 days, which will be off of notice of intent by the time the November meeting gets here, so there's a little bit of leeway there, if that makes sense. And just a reminder that all TSAC decisions are final, and that's something that is codified in law. Our monthly call, we now have a certification monthly call dedicated strictly to certification. Do encourage you to join that. We try and keep everyone, all of our certification stakeholders up to date on any changes or anything that we have. We have the link there. It can be found in the school system support calendar. It's generally the third Monday of every month at 10:30. Now, if there's a holiday or a BESI meeting that may affect that, we're generally going to have it as a different day, but it'll be listed on the school support calendar as well. If there's a BESI meeting that week, we're going to usually have the call the week after BESI, because it makes no sense to provide you an update if something's fixing to change at BESI. So we do recommend that you join those calls. Our monthly call decks prior to the August meeting were listed under the School Improvement Library under Legislative Affairs, Workforce Support, towards the bottom of the page. August and beyond is Teaching and Learning, and we have a section specifically for certification, so you can find those there. We've also posted some of those to the landing pages of teachlouisiana.net so that you can find those, since that's a place that you're normally going as well. So the next item is the non-public work group update. You know, last time we met, we spoke about creating a non-public work group to address some specific items. After reflecting on that meeting, I wanted to be sure that everybody understood that the intent of that work group was to address certification policy specific to 746, not anything that's in your non-public 741 bulletin. So just wanted to be sure that that was clear. These are the members that we captured. I want to be sure that we're not missing anybody that volunteered and we missed that on the email somewhere. The proposed date for the first meeting is October 13th at 9 a.m. The initial topic for discussion is regarding some policy for solutions for educational leaders in a non-public setting. I don't recall any other additional topics being added last time, so I just wanted to flag that. So we were thinking it's only really going to require one meeting. I want to have some proposed policy ready for you to review that particular day. But if there's other topics that I missed that we need to add, or other members that I missed, please let us know so that we can do that. Did I capture that correctly from the meeting last time?
Alexander, Sylvia Davis should be on that.
I'm sorry, say that again?
Sylvia Davis.
Okay, we will add that.
And can I ask, will this be in person or by Zoom?
Well, originally it was requested that it would be in person, but since it's potentially only one topic, if there are no other topics, we can absolutely have it via Zoom. I'll take the council's or the members' preference on that. If you can just let me know, we can do that. Yes, sir.
I disagree with you, but I thought it was broader than what you're saying now. It was to look at certification and not just that leadership.
Right. We're going to look at certification. That's the only topic that I'm aware of. So if we need to add other topics so I can have some items ready for you, I'd like to grab that today.
Let me ask you another question. I understand you say, like teachers who are certified in the public system, teach with me and non-public, if they want to upgrade that certification, before we always ran into the problem with not having comments. And my understanding is now to say that you will make that determination based on the documentation submitted, which will be the evaluation that we do in non-public schools.
Correct.
Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, sir. We have options in policy to be able to advance educators to a non-public asterisk certificate if they're coming from a public system. The only thing we can't do legally is mix the two evaluations on one certificate. So it's kind of logistics, but we would have to issue a separate certificate if they qualify.
A lot of our folks want to maintain, even though they're teaching in
Right.
but they want to keep that certification.
Correct. Yes, sir, and that's the whole reason that we're looking at the EDL certification specifically, because right now there's no option for an educator that, say, previously served as a principal and has an EDL in the public setting. If they want to serve as a principal in the non-public setting, we don't have an option for them except for non-practicing status, which there can be optics issues with that, and so that's why we want to take a look at that policy specifically. But if there are other topics in certification policy for non-publics, if you want to throw those out now, we can add them to the agenda so I can have some research done, some maybe even proposed policy ready for the first meeting, we can do that.
So not to gently disagree maybe, I thought it was really about this particular topic, the meeting, about leadership stuff. If it needs to expand to larger things, we can, but I think maybe that's subsequent, I don't know. It was my understanding that we're gonna be talking about that.
Any other opinions or concerns or topics or anything? Is there something in particular y'all were thinking that may be added to that?
Tell me, was there something else?
Was there a particular certification thing with teachers as well?
It was teachers, yeah.
Teachers.
Because, back and forth between the two systems. And it's complex. And I get people who come from the public side, so I just think to be clearer guidance,
Okay.
a better understanding,
Sure.
of the flow, both sides of the house.
Absolutely,
And I recall people who were there long before me, in years gone by, that always said it was much easier, because at the state level, you had the certification, bam, you had the asterisk, because you were non-public, but you were certified both ways. So
Right.
that's why I think
Right.
it needs to be
Sure.
discussed more.
Sure, I can add to our agenda for that day to kind of discuss what our options are currently in policy for non-public educators and leaders. And then I'll have some proposed policy for you to look at for the EDL specifically. We think we have a solution for that and want your opinion on that. And then based off of that discussion, if there's any other items that we need to add and have subsequent meetings, we can absolutely do that. So given that it's those two basic topics, do we want to have it in person as originally intended, or do we need to move it to a Zoom meeting for that particular day?
I don't have a cat in this fight, but I think the first one needs to be in person,
Okay,
and then you all can spill off from there.
sure.
Do know that I will have a couple of observers at the meeting?
Sure.
Because I think there's some issues that have come up that I don't work with it, but I get the frustration of my person who does it.
Right.
And I know Sister Ann does hers. I mean, I have 33 schools. And I could have one full-time person just to do,
Right.
because most of my people don't read, so, I'm sure nobody's surprised at that. Gosh, it's laughing at them. But the thing is, but then it becomes frustrating. And so maybe I agree, go out to eat at PF Chang's or somewhere, come in Baton Rouge, and then maybe from those people on that committee, some things can come up that you all can look at down the road.
Sure.
Because we're extra for you all. I mean, we understand that, but it is frustrating, and I know a lot of times, forms have to change, but then we don't know about it until you go, so maybe just some tweaking.
Sure.
But I think in person first. I know, Paul, you by that time.
It's my birthday, so I can't wait.
And by that time, you might have the cameras in the basement, so be careful. Be careful.
So we'll keep it in person that day. If you have some additional agenda topics, I would appreciate that you send those over. I'd like to have those to be able to present to the group ahead of time. I'll send an email to these folks and put a deadline where we'd like the additional agenda topics to be added so that we can just be prepared with all the necessary information for you. So it will be in person, it will be here in this room, we reserve this room, and we'll start as 9 a.m. an okay start time. I know y'all normally start at 10 for these.
No, that's fine.
Okay. So then that'll be the update accordingly, and I believe Shannon captured the additional member that we left out. So the next section are all of the changes that prompted the initial application changes. There were some legislative changes that had to do with Praxis Core, master's degree, out-of-state reciprocity, criminal history checks for certification, and GPA. We realize that some of these don't necessarily affect the non-public educators, but we also know that educators talk back and forth, and they swap back and forth in systems. So we just wanted to make you aware of the changes that were in place, even though they may or may not affect your educators specifically. So Act 707 and 244 are the acts that really did a number on certification. They had the most effects on certification. It removed the practice core academic skills for entrance into a teacher preparation program and for licensure. All other requirements do remain the same. So this slide here goes through what is actually required. So you're still required to have the content for renewal of a resident certificate. If any of you have a resident that's placed with one of your educators, you're still required to have a content for issuance of a practitioner's license if any of you are participating in having practitioner teachers as a part of your staff. Content, pedagogy, and specialty exams, of course, are still required for issuance of a standard level certificate. People heard, oh, praxis is gone, and they thought everything was gone. So we just wanted to kind of line it out here and let you know that not everything praxis is gone. And then, of course, it does affect the TAT. TATs typically are not issued in non-publics, but just wanted to flag that those are the certificates that this particular update does affect. Out-of-state reciprocity, we talked about that earlier. Previously, exam exclusion happened if they had 3 years out of state prior plus 1 year in-state. They removed that 1 year in-state requirement, so an educator that has 3 years prior out-of-state experience prior to entering into our state can actually advance to a higher level certificate right away. If they don't have those 3 years, they are required to pass our Louisiana exams, but they can be issued that 3-year provisional out-of-state certificate while they take those exams.
Can I ask you one question on the TAT?
Sure.
If you have someone that has a college degree and they're working in one of those alternate certification programs, you do apply with the TAT, right? Or no?
Well, the TAT, that's required to have compass evaluations for renewal, so that wouldn't be applicable in the non-public setting.
Okay.
So if they're enrolled in an in-state teacher preparation program, they have their content exam and they're doing in-state teacher preparation, they really should be if there's a teacher of record, they really should be on a practitioner's license. And their program will apply for that. Now, there are some forms in that application that they'll send to you, like the intent to employ, that you'll need to fill out and complete on behalf of the educator to include as part of that application. But it would be the PL if they're serving as a teacher of record. If they're serving as a true resident, where they're serving alongside of another certified teacher of record, then that would be the resident certificate if they're enrolled. And that's generally for the 4-year program, the traditional programs. There are a few alt cert programs, master's programs that usually offer a true residency for their candidates. Any other questions before I get to the TEP? So the TEP was expanded in law because the TEP requires effectiveness via compass. It's not really applicable for the non-public setting, but you may hear educators and their friends and whomever talking about it, so I wanted to flag for you what it was so that you have an understanding of what it is. And what it allows, they expanded the options for issuance of that. It's a temporary employment permit, so it's similar to the TAT in that it's based on workforce needs in the public school setting. But there are 2 options. A candidate can have a graduate degree in the area in which they're seeking employment, or they could have completed a teacher preparation program that then didn't have quite all of the exams passed, and they have to be missing that cut score by only 10%. Under those conditions, then a TEP may be issued and they would be allowed to teach. Of course, there's mentoring, there's some other requirements that are required along the way, but that's an option, not in the non-public setting, but you may hear, just like you've probably heard a lot about praxis, you may hear a lot about this as well. So I wanted to provide that information to y'all. There was a GPA update also in Act 244 that requires a 2.2 undergraduate GPA for entrance into a post-bac program, and then, of course, the 2.5 for completion of the program. It does have an effective date if a candidate was enrolled prior to 5/31. they could use our old policy and law that would allow for GPA flexibility. But currently, if they were admitted after that date, there's not an in-state option for entrance into a teacher preparation program if they don't have a 2.2 GPA or higher. So that just goes through those two pieces. Any other questions?
What is your contact email? I have a specific question. I want
Sure.
to hear.
You can reach us either way, certification@la.gov or Christy, CHRISTY.Bellue, BELLUE @la.gov. And you have access to our online portal. You can also submit a question as
Do,
well.
it's just, this has been a year for the university,
Sure.
the teacher, and.
Absolutely.
Come to a head.
Absolutely. Anybody else?
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Any questions? Thanks, Christie. Thank you. Move on to reporting and EdLink. Need a motion to receive the report. Kathy, second, Mr. Carroll.
Mr. Carroll, this is gonna be your favorite.
I'm in.
You are?
I'm in, girl. I had an 8 o'clock meeting this morning with I'm in. I don't know what to do now that I'm in, but I'm in.
That's the easy part. Now we can help you.
You know, there's another Carol Shively in the system. I'm sister Carol Shively. I had her birthday, I had her social security number, I had everything.
Ah, that's the problem.
Met her tour.
It's fixed. So,
Carol's going to teach me what to do, so.
we'll teach you, don't worry.
I'll be on it too.
I'm in.
Okay, so that's what we're talking about, is the non-public school reporting. So this is an annual reporting submission that's required of all non-public schools that are BESI approved. You are essentially reporting to us what is your total enrollment by grade for this year, and then that includes from last spring, who are your graduates, and it's kind of our annual data collection process. So, EdLink is our new system that we're using. This used to be submitted through the Leads portal, if that sounds familiar.
Yes.
That is being phased out by the systems team, by Office of Technology Services. So we are transitioning to EdLink, which the public schools have been in for a while, and a lot of your schools are probably in for one way or another. Whether that's like transitioning transcripts, I know that SIR, special education, just switched. So some of your admin team might actually be in. If not, you're going to need to create an account. But this is a much more user-friendly system once you are in. That also has a lot of data quality checkpoints in there. So instead of us on the back end looking at, does your submission look right to what it was last year? Is there any kind of dramatic shifts? That's all kind of built in. So it should make the process a lot smoother. It is also a little bit easier to navigate. The biggest hurdle we're seeing is folks getting an account created. So if someone on your school site hasn't had an account, you're going to have to do so. We have a very detailed guidance that should get them there. If there's any issues or concerns, I'll talk a little bit about our support in a second. The portal will close on October 7th. That being said, I know that folks are kind of having some issues navigating the new system. There's a built-in automatic extension. So all they need to do is go in and just say, I need a little bit more time, and it will automatically extend. If they need more extension on that, they can also request it, it just comes to us. At that point, we'll probably just reach out for more support.
Okay, let me make sure I have this straight in my head. Okay, this is the reporting we used to do through Leads, and now we just go on and do the enrollment, all this. Then, apart from that, we would do the non-public school approval with Broomfield Dodge, health certificate, yada, yada. That's through JOT form?
That's still JOT form.
Okay.
We're building that out in EdLink, but we're going to baby steps into EdLink.
Babies.
Yeah. So, yeah. So MPS is our first EdLink entree, and then next fall for the BESI approval, that will now be in EdLink. But for this year, we're still doing JOT form.
Not that easy. How do you find the JOT form?
Oh, it's in my next presentation.
Oh.
So on the MPS system, again, we have a really detailed manual that goes from account creation to how to submit, what to submit. That is all on our website. And then we're hosting office hours which will be later today, and then another one on Thursday, which are open times for anybody to come in that's having any issues or just wants a tutorial. Breakout rooms from there of like troubleshooting any sort of work issues you may have. We are also available at any point. If you have any questions, email nonpublicschools@la.gov. As we come up with more resources or information, additional office hours, we're going to keep posting that on our page. We had Tuesday and Thursday office hours last week, and we've seen like 50, 60 people joined. So it's good. I think a lot more people are getting access. They're getting in the system. Again, you have until October 7th, but anybody that needs a little extra time, it's totally fine.
It's 10:30 p.m.
or
Can't sleep.
Oh, wow. I'll be asleep.
I'm in bed.
Yeah, me too. Sorry, AM. Don't worry, we wouldn't do that to you.
Like a church.
But we are, any support questions that we have, nonpublicschools@la.gov, and then we will try to, find whoever can support from there on our team. I think the most that we're seeing is folks that have existing accounts, like a Mila account or an eScholar account, and linking those to EdLink. So we're partnering with the Analytics Accountability and Assessment, I probably got those based off in order, team for any of the security issues or questions that you have there.
And can I ask, will the information requested be the same as in years prior?
Yes, and we intentionally kept it, it looks pretty much the same, right, from page to page to page. What you'll see is a little different is that it's going to pull in some of the information for you from the sponsor site, hopefully make your lives a little easier. Whereas in Leads didn't really do that very well. So some fields will already be pre-populated, but information, data, the flow, everything looks the same. Okay. All right.
Any further discussion? Any questions? Thank you very much. Moving on.
Still me.
Oh, it's still you. Where are you? Oh, portfolio opportunities. I need a motion to receive the report, Dr. Baker.
Kathy over there.
Kathy, yeah. Just put some money.
Alright, this is a quick one, I'm almost done.
Oh, good. Here we
Now
go.
we talk about the non-public school seeking state approval, and then if you have any slight changes, I want to talk about that process. So, all non-public schools wishing to be BESI approved must annually apply for the non-public school seeking state approval process. Again, this is going to be in the job form again this year. It'll look primarily the same. I think one of the system improvements we've been able to implement is that the actual application is open through the 7th. So if you have any changes, you can go back in and update it. You don't have to resubmit. So essentially you get a link that you can go into your application. We're just going to keep it open. And then on the 7th, it closes. So anything you need to modify or change, you can start it, save it, and go back to it. It's a little bit more user-friendly.
Do you have the website address of that?
The job form,
Yeah, because you gotta get it.
it links, that should link to our non-public school page. It will be posted by the end of the week. The link is done, we just need to get it up on our website. So it'll open Friday, is the plan. So this non-public approval, as well as Brumfield dot approval, is required for participation in the Louisiana Scholarship Program or the School Choice Program, as well as is required for receiving any state or federal funding. Again, once you submit the form, you're going to receive an active link that you can go back in and make any edits that are necessary. And then we're going to bring the applications to BESI in December for approval. If you have any questions, nonpublicschools@la.gov. If you could please encourage all of your schools to submit prior to that date so that we can stay on schedule to bring the school list to BESI at the December meeting. Questions about that? And along with that is the Brumfield v. Dodd approval. This is the federal court order prohibiting discrimination. Any of our schools that also wish to seek any state or federal funding or participate in any of the scholarship programs must have Brumfield Dodd approval. If the school has existing Brumfield Dodd approval, they do need to submit a form every year. It's kind of a compliance report with additional information. if they are a new school seeking Brumfield dot approval, a new school or an existing school seeking new Brumfield dot approval, our legal team reviews that application and then it goes to the United States Department of Justice for approval. So all the more reason, if any new school wants to participate, make sure that they submit on time. It takes a little bit of time to get that process all done. Okay. Sponsor site changes. So what we call sponsor site is the database that houses all of the basic information about our schools, grade level served, address, administrators, all of that good stuff. So that is now feeding into a lot of the work we're doing in EdLink. So when I say things are going to pre-populate in that system, they need to be accurate in sponsor site. So if there's any changes, in addition to schools opening or closing, grade levels change, anything like that, address or school leader changes, if you could just make sure that you're sending us that information and then we can make sure it's updated with the systems team on the back end. Also just helps us with accuracy of information. Oh, now I am done. All right. Thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Some questions? Ooh, you came up fast. Go ahead. I need a motion to receive the report on Michelle Credit Recovery.
Great. All right, good morning again. I'm here to talk to you about the credit recovery policy. The credit recovery policy is currently in Bulletin 741 for non-public schools. We are updating the current credit recovery policy to become in line with the credit recovery policy that is in Bulletin 741 for public schools. Why are we doing that? Because we want to have it all aligned. Our high schools are pretty much aligned the same. We normally mirror the policy. We updated the policy in Bulletin 741 non-public in 2021. Is that correct? 2020? Yeah. 21? Yeah, we updated it in 21, but we failed to update it in the non-public school bulletin. And so that is what we're doing right now. It is just becoming in alignment. It was previously the same. Now it will be the same for the most part. So the vast majority of credit recovery in Louisiana is done online. It covers a wide variety of educational strategies to bring students up to par with where they need to be so that they can graduate on time. There have been a lot of issues with credit recovery in the past, and so that is the reason that we initially looked at the policy that we had in 2021. We realized that we needed to make some changes so that our systems were all on the same page. Most of them, of course, are unearned in the high school level, and students were participating in credit recovery courses for which they had never taken or failed. And that is the key. It is credit recovery. It is for a credit that they have taken before and they failed. But we had some students taking credit recovery and they had never taken the course. So we needed to address that. Also, credit recovery courses were not labeled on the transcript. They were just labeled as a regular course. So now we are requiring that they be labeled on the transcript as credit recovery. And a lot of times the educators that were providing the credit recovery courses, they were not qualified to provide that particular course. So we want to make sure that the individuals who are providing the credit recovery courses are qualified educators. And then the last two bullets here, no test to assess prior knowledge or final learning, and students were finishing in unrealistically short periods of time. So we would have a student that was earning 7 credit recovery credits in one academic year. What were they doing? We have no clue. So therefore, we decided we need to adjust this policy. We want our students to come out knowing the information, so we adjusted the policy. So this is the current policy that you see in Bulletin 741 non-public. The policy that you're going to see coming up on the next 2 slides is very similar. There's some changes that have been made. So again, the rationale for the change is to make sure that both policies are aligned into 2 different 741 bulletins. We want to make sure the quality of the programs are up to par and our students are actually learning when they take those credit recovery courses. So this is how the updated policy will look. So schools may implement credit recovery programs, we're not taking that away. We said that a student can earn a maximum of 7 credit recovery units over the course of their high school career. They can only earn 2 credit recovery units per academic year. So they can earn 2 in grade 9, 2 in grade 10, and so on. They can only earn 2 with a maximum of 7. Now, there may be some extenuating circumstances where a student may need to earn more. And if so, you can submit a waiver to the LDOE indicating that. And we actually have a form, so it's going to be really simple. And the form has not been updated for non-publics just yet because this is proposed policy that's going to Bessie next month. So once it goes to Bessie and it is approved at Bessie, we're hoping that it will be approved, then we will update the form, and that form should be updated by January. Really before then, but that is when we will definitely have it updated by. And so that is how the form will be submitted, and it's a notification to us that there's an exception to the policy here. Number 2 says students earning a credit recovery course must have previously taken and failed the course, which is the purpose of credit recovery. So we're laying that out in policy that is a requirement, that credit recovery courses must be labeled and clearly recorded on the transcripts. Number 4, students in credit recovery courses are not required to meet the instructional minutes in Part 1, in 117A of that part. And the final thing is that credit recovery courses should be facilitated by a qualified educator. So that's the final. So those are the changes to the credit recovery policy. Any questions?
Totally agree. Good job.
Thank you. All right. If you do have questions, Stephanie Markham is here and she can answer those in the interim if you do have any questions.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Any questions? Thank you very much. What about, wait, we skipped that. 4.6. Wait, it's not Daphne. What's 4.6? STS transcripts. Anybody here to address that?
Oh, yeah, that's from Kimberly.
Yeah, nobody's here from the department.
Students taking special classes
Yeah.
and all that.
I never got these slides. I'm not sure.
Okay. We'll go through it.
Okay, say that again. Well, I guess we better, because, are you gonna talk? No?
I was just gonna,
Do I need a motion to, you gonna say something?
oh,
Okay,
yes, thank you.
I need a motion to receive the report.
I will.
Mr. Carroll, second Dr. Baker.
So in communication with the department and you all, this has been a recurring conversation that has happened over the past year or so. And several of the department staff has put forth the information required in order to have these course codes updated for your use in your systems. The policy that is required in our Bessie regulations for these course codes, use that as your determining in order to submit the, what did she tell me, it was the course, it's an equivalency document you have to submit to the department in order to have those course codes transferred over for your non-public students in your special education. That information had been given to you all previously. The department is waiting on the submission of those documents for them to take the next step. If you have additional information that you need specific to the process that you need to use at your site in communication with the department, then you can email either my office or the non-public schools contacts, and Christine will help us get the information to the people that it needs to.
Kimberly is not here, but my understanding was that she had already sent that to the department and was waiting a response. Is That's true. That's what I understood from Kimberly.
Okay, if Kimberly can reach out to me, she has my email. She and I were the ones that initially started this conversation, and I know it's kind of been filtered through several different offices, but if she still has an issue with that, she can reach out to me directly. And I will send that where it needs to go.
I'll make sure to follow up.
Thanks, Christine.
Thank you. All right, any further discussion, questions? Okay, our final item on our agenda, our report from our ombudsman, Ms. Daphne. You have 2 seconds.
Yes, ma'am.
We always, why they leave you for last, all the time?
You love comments. That's why.
I need a motion to receive the report. Lisa, Mr. Carroll, second.
Good morning again. How's everybody?
Good.
Great. We just want to,
You press the.
oh, I was thinking.
Might be on.
Okay, there we go.
Several
Update.
Keep going.
Good.
You pressed it by mistake, Anthony, and it went way down.
It sure did.
So just keep going forward.
You just
Okay.
want us to keep looking at you. Girl.
Oh, God. Okay, thank you. The slip of the finger. So, first of all, there was a really good session in DC. I will be sending you updates on those items. We want to look at these updates and reminders. First of all, the Family Non-Public Income Survey that we will use to determine the October 1st count for 23-24 was sent out, as well as the intent to participate forms on September the 6th to your LEAs. That way they have them in plenty of time to get all of that information to you. As you all know, we always ask them to make sure they put something on the front of that envelope so that our non-public schools will know this is something that's a top priority. I know you're having budget meetings to find out, did you have rollover, did you do anything with that? But now it is in time to talk about the carryover, so please check. If you have not had those budget meetings, you are welcome to call the LEAs yourself and set them up. If you need me to participate in any of those sessions, please don't hesitate to reach out. The U.S. Department of Ed is going to allow the use of items from ESSER beyond the September 30th deadline. This is how this is going to work. You need to justify your use. You justify the use, but also, and I have a sheet for you with the update and correction, that it must be in agreement with the LEA. The LEA has to approve that, yes, this is justifiable for you to use it. Let's keep in mind, COVID is still here. We might not be wearing masks as much as we used to, but we know those little viruses are still roaming around. Also, the LEAs will update you all on how they want to do those justifications. I'm going to say to you and strongly encourage that you put that in writing and you also copy me on any of those items. Additional reminders, as I just stated, the conference was very good in DC last week, so there are some hot topics that I will share with our federal program staff as well as with you all. But one of the things that did come up was about the carryover. Yes, non-public schools are supposed to receive that. You have that carryover form, but you need to still justify why that is needed. If it is something in terms of the funding. Also, if there's anybody out there with 2021, we need to have a Zoom meeting because we have gone over that many times on how to expend those forms. So that would be most appreciative. You've been asking, and the LEAs have been
asking, when are we gonna start our annual non-public sessions again? And what are we gonna do about COVID protocol? So, look for a save the date for our October date, but what we're gonna do instead of having one session in the north and one session in the south, we'll have 2 in the north, 2 in the south. If we need to add one in the middle, it's okay. But again, we have several people who are new to federal programs, and so we want to be sure that they are understanding not only the process for this, but they need to understand the purpose and importance of the networking. Any questions? Yes, ma'am?
Should we have received a form from our LEA for each parent to indicate their annual income?
It's coming up, that's
No,
that.
but we've never had that, and I don't think parents are gonna be comfortable checking that off, sending that form back to school with their children.
Here's what's going on. Usually in the diocese, you all go through your nutrition director, and they give us the information on your free and reduced lunch. But we do have some now that have started using the form. But as long as your food and nutrition director can provide the LEA with that information, continue to use that process. The reason that came up, you may recall we talked about this probably last year or earlier, to use the forms with some of the schools is because now most of the ISM schools eat free through CEP, but we cannot accept CEP just because CEP includes families who are middle and upper income. And that does not equate to the guidance in terms of it has to be based on the low income count. So that's why that started. But many of you, once this happens, talk to your food and nutrition directors who said, hey, we'll still give you that information. That is not a problem. In the case that that does not happen, and you do need to switch over to that, work with me one-on-one because I can share a lot of positive tips to help you get that information for your parents in a very palatable and agreeable way. We've had some schools to make a huge difference in getting that and actually found out they were missing a few families.
So we should have already gotten that income survey from.
No,
this
it's
time.
ready for them to send out.
Send out, okay.
Usually they're gonna send it out, most of them send it out right before Thanksgiving or right before Christmas. Some have said they want it now because they want to go on and start gathering some of the information. But remember, it's for the October 1st count. That's our deadline date. Also, if you recall, some schools decide to use that at their open house, put it in their registration packet. They just know that after October 1st, you pull that item. But that has also been a big help too.
And the request to continue use of items from Esther, should that have been?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
I'm sure they're gonna say something real soon after September 30th.
Okay.
Because, keep in mind, it's okay, but it has to be justified. And I think you can do that in many cases due to not just COVID, precautions and prevention, but also we are still doing a lot of small groups in terms of learning loss.
Right.
And so therefore, we're not ready to bring everybody back together yet closely. And so, all those things that you needed in the cafeteria, in the classroom, on the playground, etc., are still viable and needed. Let me know if you need help with justification.
Thank you.
Thank you
very much. Any further discussion? Any questions? Further discussion, any questions?
Okay, just a question. I know that I saw Mr. Burnell was over there, EEF webinar this week and moving forward after that.
Yes, as well. Our key person is not here. But I think we put something in the newsletter and then
Yeah.
Wednesday. Okay.
Wednesday.
Perfect.
Thank you to all the staff that was here today to make presentations. We appreciate all that you do for us. I know sometimes we're probably a thorn in your side, but, we pray for you. so, and we really do. When we're upset, we pray for you. Thank you very much. And thanks to Shannon and Aaron for keeping us in line. Our next meeting is January the 24th. So happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. No further business, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you.